petition, and for this reason, I have been asked to come and receive the petition so that what should be done officially shall be done for the benefit of all of us in this republic called Ghana. So here we are, and we are ready to take that which you want to submit to the presidency. We'll get that after that. My name is Emmanuel Aduma Bossman. I'm Deputy Chief of Staff responsible for operations. Yeah.
Okay, TV3, you pay for this one.
The national leadership of the party, we are here this afternoon to present our petition to His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Ghana. We believe that recent happenings in the country are nothing to write home about. And so the youth of Ghana have decided that today we will demonstrate and show our displeasure to what is happening and call on the President that the challenges that confront many young people and this country as a whole should be fixed. I will read the petition to the media, and after we will present it to you. It's a lengthy one, so I will paraphrase them, pick the highlights, and then leave it as such.
The microphones can go down. You can start.
Petition to President Akufo-Addo by the National Youth Wing of the National Democratic Congress. The framers of the 1992 Constitution were spot on when they made provisions in Clause 1 of Article 1 that the sovereignty of Ghana resides in the people of Ghana, in whose name and for whose welfare the powers of government are to be exercised in the manner and within the limits laid down in this Constitution. In the strict adherence to the meaning of this provision, Your Excellency, you took the presidential oath on 7th January 2027, when you were first elected President of the Republic. Although our party, the NDC, contested the general elections, which was subsequently decided in your favor by the Supreme Court of our Republic, you took the same oath on January 7, 2021, to serve another 4-year term. The presidential oath, as we know it, was not and cannot be fanciful words said for purposes of formality. Despite the polarized nature of our country, Ghanaians who voted for you, and indeed those who voted for your opponents, succumbed to your constitutional arrangements and entrusted their will and aspirations in your hands. The hopes of every Ghanaian, including your political adversaries, was to see you uphold the tenets of our Constitution, sustain the peace you inherited from your predecessor, improve upon the economic well-being of Ghanaians, fight corruption ruthlessly, provide decent employment for the youth in particular, and ensure the safety of everybody, amongst other things. Needless to say, these were the very teething issues you campaigned on and promised to deliver. Your Excellency, without missing words, it is heart-wrenching to state that your government has so far delivered the antithesis of almost all what you promised Ghanaians. It cannot be gainsaid that if you objectively and sincerely look back, reflect on the state of the country, bequeathed to you, and what you have done with it in 5 years, you have eroded almost all the strides our country have made. Right. In our country, if our country was a clock, you would have rode it anti-clockwise. Though our country was riddled with some age-long challenges before you took over, issues of corruption, unemployment, nepotism, chronism, and insecurity, among others, have increased unimaginably. You will agree with us that our country needs fixing, and there cannot be any good time to fix it than now. The danger, Your Excellency, is that there is no commitment from you and your government that these life-threatening challenges facing our country will be at least reduced. Instead of teaming up with those who have taken inspiration from your edicts to be citizens and not spectators to fix the country, your government is surprisingly averse to calls asking for the fixing of our beloved country. Those crusading for the country to be fixed have become enemies of your government, as they are either being intimidated, harassed, or killed by your militia. Respectfully, Mr. President, it is not out of place to point out to you that though Ghanaians signed a social contract with you to resolve their problems, your government has become an insurmountable challenge that they are struggling to resolve. What we are saying is that your government has become a problem for Ghanaians to deal with. Objective minds in our nation and those in your government are whispering on corridors, having growing apprehension about where you are leading this country of ours. The leadership you have provided so far is one of let's finish everything today because there is no tomorrow. There is no hope for the youth under your stewardship. The very people you promised to protect are the ones being beaten or killed daily by thugs recruited into our security services. Those who promised jobs have either been laid off, lost their investment, or have not been employed at all. You have failed to build a just society. Today, more than ever in the history of the construction of our state, access to the few opportunities is solely based on possession of an NPP party card. Those who promise solely based on possession of an NPP card, those who promise infrastructure development, have either hurt your predecessors started abandoned or not seen any infrastructure at all. Perhaps the best thing about your government is how far your family members and cronies are feeding on the national kitty to the chagrin of all of us. The case of students, nurses, teachers, tailors, carpenters, Okada riders, tractor drivers, doctors, masons, traders, civil servants, farmers to the last man on the street has been of agony, pain, and sorrow. In the world all over, governments are elected to work for people and not otherwise. Your Excellency, your government is not working for the generality of Ghana, but a select few, mainly family members. Now I'll tell you what we are demanding from you. Though it sounds needless to remind you of your pledge and campaign message to the good people of Ghana, it is worth it to make the following demands. Immediately implement the recommendations of the No Shot Commission of Inquiry forthwith, in particular, and direct the Attorney General to prosecute all culprits. Beyond investigating all acts of violence perpetrated by officers of the security agencies under your watch, ensure that all victims get justice as required by law. Victims of such acts of violence from Edra, Ablekuma Central, Banda, etc. must all not be denied justice. Make provisions towards decent jobs for the teeming youth of the country through proper structural economic reforms and business support for enterprises of young people. Ensure the safety and security of all Ghanaians. Stamp out corruption by prosecuting corrupt officials within your government and stop shielding them. We are asking that there is a fierce agency to halt the hopelessness nature of cronyism that has crept into our country. Take steps to fulfill your campaign promises. Depoliticize, and the emphasis is ours, depoliticize the security services. Introduce reforms to give true meaning to its independence. We charge that all these reforms be led by experts in our country and not partisan appointees. Instruct the Attorney General and the Minister of Justice to improve the justice system and win the judiciary of partisan influence. We count on your failed self commitment to our nation as it is President in this historic moment. Thank you. Written for and on behalf of the youth of Ghana, under my good hands, George Mariado.
So the
go back so he can present. The other side. Go back. Just keep it. I'm coming back.
Yes, sir.
Hand it over to the President.
Thank you.
Tell him to reflect on it when he sleeps, because the youth of Ghana are crying, and we are not happy with the style of government. Thank you.
So, on behalf of the President, I have received this petition. I listened to the articulation. They contain some democratic issues and issues that border on the rule of law. I am sure the appropriate authorities will be detailed and directed to do that which is possible and which is necessary under the dictates of our constitution. Thank you so much for coming, and may God bless us all. God bless our homeland, Ghana. God bless.
Your name?
Emmanuel Aduma Bossman, Deputy Chief of Staff. Aduma Bossman, Deputy Chief of Staff.
It is done, and I see the chief of staff operations back into the Jubilee House. as I speak to you now, MFR.
These are live visuals coming from the Jubilee House, where the NDC Youth Wing has presented a petition to President Akufo-Addo, and they want, as they put it, the country fixed. They raise issues of security, and they claim that the president is not working to serve the generality of the population, but to serve a few of who they refer to as family and friends. The petition was received on behalf of the president by the Deputy Chief of Staff in charge of operations, Edumwa Osman, and some leaders of the protesters have been expressing their concerns to Joy News regarding the March for Justice. Among them is former Deputy Finance Minister Fifi Kwete, MP for Ningo Prampram, Sam Jata-George, and KCL Ato Force. And they spoke to us earlier.
I mean, the country is becoming increasingly almost like a military state. I mean, there is, apart from the fact that there's so much fear in terms of the culture of silence, I mean, the danger that is creeping into becoming a situation where all kinds of what you call security forces are brutalizing citizens of this country. It's important for the people to be mobilized in order for us to express serious outrage against what is going on.
Is this call or this thing about insecurity, is it not directed at the head of security forces rather than the president and the vice president whom you are directing this demonstration against?
You know, the difficulty is that in the wake of what happened, for example, during the elections, when all kinds of brutalities, violence was committed against unarmed, innocent civilians, and nothing was done about it. That clearly opened the gateway for the kind of things that are happening today. So the real buck stops at the top. So it is important for the president to know that what is happening today is simply a gate that he has opened as a result of what you call the desperation to win elections and the kind of bastardization that took place and all kinds of flagrant disregard of human rights, including killing of innocent civilians. So you can say that this is simply a consequence of those things that happened earlier. See, when you set up a commission yourself, a commission that really you set up, and that commission made a recommendation to you, and you literally don't do anything about it, what you do effectively is to render that whole exercise null and void. I mean, and again, the recommendations that were being made were nothing that were extraordinary. I mean, we're talking about disbanding a unit that had clearly become a completely different unit. That's really not too much to ask. And punishing people who clearly had done what was wrong. Now, when you don't do that, what you do is to encourage what it is we are seeing in the country today.
And citizens shot from the back. It is against the principles of international warfare to shoot a man in the back. Akufo-Addo is commander-in-chief of the armed forces, and the armed forces have carried out such dastardly acts. Akufo-Addo has not shown us the soldiers who killed the Ghanaian citizens in Techiman, the soldiers who killed the Ghanaians in Ejura. You saw the rampage in Wa. That is Akufo-Addo's legacy. He's the tyrant-in-chief, and we are saying to him, enough is enough. This same Akufo-Addo promised the youth employment. He promised them jobs. Where are the jobs?
Okay, Honorable, someone wants to argue that during your administration, some of these things you are complaining about unemployment, injustice is also happening in your administration. So how would you respond to that?
I'll debate you on that. Let's take the issue of injustice. I'm going to give you, off the top of my head, a list of some journalists who have suffered injustice under this administration.
So we'll bring you more of that later. That was earlier recordings, but let's take you now live to that protest. Gifty under appear is there for us. Hello, Gifty.
Their way towards Parliament House, and I really wish that I could get to any of the leaders at this point so we could talk to them and find out their impressions after they presented this petition. Unfortunately, though, they are not around here because they've started moving towards the Parliament House. But let me just get a little outside of this wall that has been formed, this police shield that has been formed right here, obviously for protection. Now, I must say at the beginning that we had Samuel George, Member of Parliament for Ningo Pram, indicating that they've heard there will be military presence. I have not seen any military presence at all. What we have seen, by the way, is that you've seen some military vehicles moving around, and that's also because we walked by the Defense Ministry. That's their ministry, so obviously you'll see them. Here at the Jubilee House as well, I can see some military men. None of them here, by the way. All we have here are police officers doing their job. But it looks like the protesters keep coming in from all sides of town. So this is a new line that's just been formed here. All of them walking towards the Parliament House, which is supposed to be our next stop. So, Dennis, we're coming to you live from the Jubilee House. It's not every day that you get a chance to stand here, not even to film the Jubilee House, of course, which is a security zone. But we're here reporting on what's been happening with the protesters here. We're going to make our way out of here towards Parliament, and when we get there, we'll bring you the updates as well. We'll also bring you the update of what was said when the petition was presented to the President through the Deputy Chief of Staff. Benes, let me hand over to you now.
Definitely Gifty and Rapia there, definitely still following and covering that protest by the NDC. They call it the March for Justice, and they've highlighted a few issues they believe should be addressed by President Akufo-Addo. So we are following keenly on this, but as you just heard Gifty say, this is quite a large protest, and obviously because of COVID protocols, they've had to divide the group, and so she is with one section and my colleague Daniel Dazi is with the other. Hello, Daniel, what can you report from where you are?
So, Bennett, we actually just arrived. The contingency that I was with just arrived at the Flagstaff House. We really missed the presentation of the petition because I'm sure Gifty has told you, and you've seen on camera, that the NDC decided to break the body of the demonstration. What that means is that they moved in smaller groups of 50 to 100. So one group would move, there's a space, and then another group would move. I saw a number of key members of the NDC making sure that that spacing is respected. However, these groups were moving, as you saw on camera, in very, very tight groups. And so the social distancing was still not observed. I spoke to the General Secretary of the NDC about it. He admitted that it was difficult to enforce the social distancing protocols, but he pointed out, which I must say, is largely true, that the majority of people were wearing nose masks. At the point, I have seen someone going around with a box of nose masks, often to persons who are not wearing them. Though, of course, there are still those who choose not to wear the mask or choose to wear the mask improperly. And we are told that there are those who are going around in the same way with hand sanitizer as well to ensure that those protocols are followed, Bennett.
And so, Daniel, your group obviously will not make a stop at the Jubilee House. You just carry on straight to the Parliament House, is that it?
Exactly, Bennett. When we got here, the presentation had been done, and the contingency had started moving already. So we just followed.
All right, Daniel, we'll leave it here for now, but those are some shots of the protesters on your screens. I beg your pardon, and we've been bringing you live visuals since morning on this protest being carried out by the NDC and its sympathizers. Now, let me take you to another major event that's been happening today, and that's the public inquiry into the Ejura killings. Now, the Ashanti Regional Minister, Simon Osei-Mensah, says intelligence received by the Ashanti Regional Security Council pointing to threats by the youth of Ejura to burn state and private property after the burial of social activist Mohammed Ibrahim, also known as Kaka, forced him to deploy the military and police to the town. Appearing before the ministerial committee tasked to investigate circumstances which led to the shooting and killing of two, the minister says the law establishing the Security Council grants him such powers. The committee, chaired by an appeals court judge, Justice George Kingsley Kumsin, will receive evidence from witnesses to ascertain the cause of the violence and make recommendations to the Interior Minister, who will then forward it to the President. Simon Osei-Mensah, who was the first witness, told the committee that deployment was sent to maintain law and order.
We called on the family of the two who died during the incident, and Kaka, who also clubbed and died. All the three families, we visited them. During the visit, the Minister of Interior gave some money for the initial expenses, even though we had been informed by a Ejirahene that he had also paid for some of the initial expenses. While the amount, 7,000 to each of the families, so 7,000. From there, we visited the three families of the injured. Unfortunately, we met only one. The remaining two were still at the hospital. The one we met, if I remember the name very well, is called Nuhu. But I've forgotten the other name. He was injured in the thigh, and it had been bandaged. So he went to a Ejira hospital, he was treated and discharged. So we met him. The remaining two were still at the hospital. And as I speak, 1 hour is still at Komfo-Anokye Teaching Hospital. The other injured was sent to Duayang in Kwanta Hospital. Actually, I've not been there.
So we'll take you back live to Kumasi when that probe resumes. But the chief of Ejira is calling for an extension of stay for the military contingent dispatched to maintain law and order there 6 days after the uniformed men allegedly gunned down 2 residents and injured 3 others. Berima Shediye II says the level of violence incited by some elements within the town needs urgent attention. He told the committee tasked to investigate the disturbances he will table recent violent occurrences when he appears before it. Love FM's Erastus Asare Donko has more in the following report.
Ahead of a public inquiry into what happened at Ejira, which has left 3 dead, the 3-member ministerial committee on the Ejira disturbances has been visiting the area. Led by Court of Appeal Judge Justice George Kingsley Kumsin, members first visited the Chief of Ejira to officially announce the commencement of hearings on Tuesday. The Chief of Ejira, Berima Shediye, bemoaned the worsening security situation at Ejira.
Edi hu so be masa nkrofo na adwombone abom kroma abom tram be so mo say yekuro ma ye nti ye dey disrede to aban nim say ye pe military detachment kuro yi mu na fe police no so a omo boy ho ba no so aban mie mu ma ye na enya security agencies ni be brave wo krom ha say na enkwala na enyini ba no wo mo amefa wo mo adwombone ne tumode aye omo ma omo nam krom ha ese kuro no omo be fa say asu ni bi
Traditional Council, any Kromha opinion leaders.
Justice George Kingsley Kumsin stressed the need for people who witnessed or have evidence to the deaths and injuries recorded during the disturbances to testify before the committee to aid its work.
Ejira is a big town. We wouldn't know whether Kweku or Amma was present when the incident took place. If I can use multimedia as an example, when the incidents were happening, some of your staff were covering, so we know that at least they, from their own reportage, they have some evidence which will be helpful to us. Those ones we are extending invitations to them specifically. But the people of Ejura, we cannot determine this man was there, that man was there, or that woman was there. That is why it has become necessary for us to meet the chiefs and the people so that any person who has any information or evidence to help us to unravel the truth and to make the appropriate recommendation, we do it.
The committee visited families of victims of the disturbances at the home of Muntala Muhammad, the 26-year-old killed by the military. His grandfather, Alhaji Umar Al-Hassan, who is the Dagomba chief of Ejura, pledged support for the committee's work. The families of other slain men, Nasir, Yusuf, and Kaka, requested for witnesses to be supported to make the trip to the committee's sittings in Kumasi.
Mi bisa hwe commission no mo ayen hyehyeye bisa ebetimi aboa se na be ya obi a wo bibi ka fa ho wonni ska obeba no obeye de na watimi adur Kumasi
ebi opani afre eno amena epese obekasa na emom owosa ahokyire mu ye be yen hyehyeye a ye betumi ama wa bekasa na wasan aba.
Justice Kumsin has been extending invitation to people with evidence and eyewitnesses to come before the committee to assist in unraveling the truth. Reporting for Joy News, Erastus Asaredonko, Ejura, Ashanti region.
Like I mentioned earlier, the committee's work has already started, and we'll take you back when it resumes sitting. But let me take you now live to Mokola, where we are bringing you an update on that fire incident. Manuel Kranting is there for us as victims count their losses today. Hello, Manuel. What can you report? Hello, Manuel, if you can hear me. You've been speaking to some victims a day after that fire incident. You can see some of them entering the facility. Can you hear me? Yes, I can. Tell us what you've been able to pick up on the ground.
Yeah, so Dennis, the fire, even more than 24 hours after it started, is still raging. What I see currently from the second floor of the building is thick smoke billowing out of that particular part. We're told by fire service personnel on the ground that there's a part of the building which is a warehouse for cosmetic products, and these are antiperspirants and highly inflammable products. And so as they thought they had brought the situation under control, they asked a few of the traders to go and salvage what they called from the rubble. And just when that was happening, there were sparks and explosions of fire, which led to a new flame, raging and raising through the floor. That's what they've been fighting for the past 2 hours or so. And in every 10 minutes, we see another spark of fire. But now we're seeing that the traders, having looked on helplessly as their livelihoods were razed down, have been able to get the fire service to allow them access into the building to pick the very little ones that they can. And at this point, there is what you call identification of the traders and which of the shops belong to them. And so generally, it's not all cool here at Makola, where the building, 3-story building, is still on fire. Bernice.
Manuel, it's quite an interesting picture you paint there. There's fire, but people are still being allowed to enter the building. Has the fire service been able to explain what kind of mechanisms they've put in place to ensure that the people who are entering that building are safe?
Well, I see officers standing at each point of the staircase. And these officers are wearing safety helmets. But for the folks, if you like traders and head porters, who are getting access into the building, I do not see them wearing any safety gear at all. Earlier, I saw personnel from the military also guide them to climb the staircase up onto the second floor safely. But for now, it's just grab what you can if you want. And that's the situation here at Makola, because it's really degenerated and almost going out of hand. And so the traders who had been looking on believe that this is the best way to mitigate the impact of the fire that has been raging since yesterday, Bernice.
And so, Manuel, do I get an indication that these people are at a different part of the building? Because we can still see smoke emanating from it.
So where the smoke is billowing from is the second floor, the tail end of the second floor to the west wing. But right at the east wing of the second floor, you have a staircase, and that's where the people are accessing the building from. I also see a turntable ladder discharging water from what, by my count, should be the sixth fire tender that has arrived here at the scene this morning. And so they're at one end of the building, and at the far end of the building, you have firefighters fighting the fire. So two things happening, essentially. First of all, people trying to salvage what they can, and then quite simultaneously, firemen fighting the fire.
Manuel, I can see that people are carrying sacks, some of them are carrying boxes. Are you able to tell us what kind of goods these are?
So from the description we had and brought to you yesterday, these goods that you are seeing being carted from the building are primarily, underwears and also cosmetic products. And that's essentially what they are trying to bring out. And the description that we've been given by the fire officers, and we've actually climbed up there. When we went up there, we saw antiperspirants, canned antiperspirants. And they explained that when the heat sort of comes into contact with these canned antiperspirants, they explode. And with a lot of the rubble in there, it's just, smoldering. And so burning without flames. But as the wind blows, the smoldering rubble catch flames. And that's what has been burning for close to 2 hours since we arrived here this morning. So predominantly, really highly inflammable products ranging from underwears to cosmetic products. Bernice, to answer your question.
Manuel, we'll leave it here for now as you continue to monitor events at the Mokola market for us. That's my colleague Manuel Cranting telling us basically what's happening a day after fire ravaged the building which houses multiple shops there. Now, to some other stories, it might sound weird and difficult to imagine, but here's a sad story of a 14-year-old, Collins Ampong. He got both legs chopped off by a chainsaw at Asankra, Bremen, in the Western region. The incident is said to have happened when he and his 11-year-old brother were playing on a local sawmill machine around 4 p.m. on Monday. Eyewitnesses say the boy, who's lost both legs, was seen sitting close to the cutting edge of the machine as his other brother unknowingly sparked the sharp-bladed device that ripped off both legs instantly. Correspondent Ina Thalia-Kwanza joins us on the phone with more details. Hello, Ina. Really, really disturbing story there. But tell us how the boy is doing today.
Bernice, the boy is still at the Asankra Catholic Hospital. Doctors have told the family that they would have to transfer him to Okonfa-Noche Hospital in Kumasi, but the family are saying that they are financially handicapped. Apparently, the mother has got no business, or she's not working at the moment. So he is staying with an auntie in Asankra. The feet, according to them, they had left it at the place where it was chopped off, and then they took the boy to the hospital, so they cannot do anything with the two legs which have been chopped off, so they have to transfer him.
And you know, this may be quite hard to describe, but tell us at what point on his leg got chopped off? Is it from his knee or his ankle? How exactly? Where exactly did it happen?
From his knee has been chopped off. It's very disheartening. For the videos I sent, I don't know if we can show it, but it's very disheartening. If you see the video, it was chopped off, so you see the boy lying on the ground crying, and people coming in there to see what really is happening. The owner of this company says that every time, of this chainsaw machine says that every time he makes announcements in the community that children shouldn't come around the area. But yesterday, he didn't know what happened. He had gone to a store. He has those clothes there. And so he just heard the boy shouting, and he came out only to see this.
And Ina, just we can see some shots now where the chainsaw machine is. It appears there's a house on the side. Does this boy live close? Were there any adults around who could have prompted them to, you know, leave the site?
Well, Ben, is according to the owner who we spoke to, he says that he's a carpenter, so he just bought these machines and then he works with it. And so his house is just close by. There is a store, and this boy does not live so far. But as to how they managed to get there, it's something difficult for both the family and then the owner of this chainsaw machine to tell us.
Well, Ina, we'll leave it here for now. Really heart-wrenching story there from our Western Region correspondent. The very latest on this incident is that the young boy needs to be transferred to the Akomfanochi Teaching Hospital, but the family is unable to fund that. Let's take you back to Kumasi, where the Commission of Inquiry is looking into the Adura killings. And currently, my colleague Erastus Asare-Donko is testifying before it.
I, Erastus Asare-Donko, do swear by the Almighty God, that the evidence I shall give, to this committee shall be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth. So help me God.
Thank you. Please, if you could take off the mask, since at least there's nobody really around you, so that you can hear you well. Okay, please give your full name again to the committee.
Erastus Asare-Donko.
Please, where do you work?
I work as a broadcast journalist with the Multimedia Group Limited in Kumasi.
In Kumasi. Okay. And can you tell the committee what exactly you do there? What's your position? What job you do exactly?
I started with multimedia in 2012.
No, what is your position? What role do you play?
So I'm a broadcast journalist, and my duty include field reporting and also producing documentaries and features.
Okay. So, in recent times, as part of your work, have you had any coverage of any news item in the town of Ejura in Ashanti?
Yes, my lord.
If so, can you tell the committee when this was and what led you there for the coverage?
My lord, on the morning of 29th May.
May?
29th May.
Okay.
2021. I was assigned, together with my team. A camera technician and my driver.
For me to be extra sure, we are in July now. Are you saying it's 29th May?
Yeah, 29th May.
May, all right, continue.
Was it July? My Lord, I think it's July rather, 29th July. June rather.
Thank you.
June. So we were assigned to go to Edra to cover protests in the wake of the death of a social media activist, popularly called Kaka. So we left here around 8 a.m. in the morning, and we reached the scene, that's the street of Edra,